The all-out war on the EPA under the Trump administration is continuing, and it's pretty much worse than ever. Pruitt signs proposal limiting science used in EPA decisions. Listen, they did this once before with advisory boards. They said, oh, if you're a scientist and you've taken any government grants to do your science, you're not allowed on the board. What? And their argument is, oh, that means you have a conflict of interest, pro-government conflict of interest. And then what does he do? Pack the advisory boards with industry-friendly people. So a conflict of interest in favor of industry, in his mind, is not a conflict of interest. But a scientist who gets a small amount of money from the government to do their research, that is a conflict of interest. I mean, this is unbelievable stuff. Could you imagine packing a board on smoking, for example, and saying, oh, the people who are funded by the tobacco industry, they don't have a conflict of interest. It's the government scientists who, with taxpayer money, did studies on the effects of smoking. They're the ones with a conflict of interest. I mean, this guy, I don't know if he really believes this stuff or if he's solely a tool of the industry and he's full of shit, but either way, it's like stunningly stupid. Okay, so they say, this is the sleazy trick they use. Environmental Protection Agency Administrator Scott Pruitt signed a proposed rule Tuesday that seeks to restrict the types of scientific studies that regulators can use to determine the impact of pesticide and pollution exposure on human health. Pruitt said the change, long sought by chemical manufacturers and fossil fuel companies, would increase transparency in the agency's decision-making by requiring all underlying data used in scientific studies to be made publicly available. The era of secret science at the EPA is coming to an end, Pruitt said. The ability to test, authenticate, and reproduce scientific findings is vital for the integrity of the rulemaking process. Americans deserve to assess the legitimacy of the science underpinning EPA decisions that may impact their lives. Facing a swarm of ethical questions about his use of taxpayer money for personal perks, Pruitt signed the proposed order at EPA headquarters in an event live streamed on the agency's website but not open to the press. Critics that include former EPA administrators and scientists said the policy shift is designed to restrict the agency from citing peer-reviewed public health studies that use patient medical records that must be kept confidential under patient privacy laws. Such studies include the Harvard School of Public Health's landmark 6 Cities study of 1993, which established links between the death rates and dirty air in major U.S. cities. That study was used by the EPA to justify tighter air quality rules opposed by industrial polluters. So now you see, this is their trick, okay? The sleazy trick they do is they make you think it's about a different issue. So instead of just admitting what they're doing and saying, okay, we want to be more industry friendly, so what we're going to do is let them pollute and damn the consequences. Instead of being honest and upfront about it, what they do is they shroud it in a different argument. It's a red herring. And what they say is, no, this has nothing to do with the industry. This has to do with sound science and transparency. So when you frame it like that, like, oh, are you in favor of sound science and transparency? Everybody's like, of course I'm in favor of sound science and transparency. But then you read into the details, and what they're saying is, any study that has ever been done where the patient information has been kept secret because of privacy rules, that you dismiss out of hand, and we can't use that, sorry. So even though those studies are totally accurate and totally verifiable and repeatable, it's a way to dismiss the science, and then what do they fill in that blank with? They fill in the blank with industry-funded science, which, of course, isn't actually science. See, the industry has enough money to do these studies and do them whatever way they fucking want. So they do this astroturf to paint a picture they want to paint, like, oh, hey, the toxic chemicals we're releasing in the atmosphere, they're not really that bad. See, here's our study to prove it. And our study has perfect transparency, whereas yours, on the other hand, does not, because there are patients who didn't disclose their own personal information. See, it's always a trick. They never can just say up front what they're really doing. Hey, we want to bias this in favor of the industry because we don't we're pro-industry and we take money from the industry, so let them pollute. We don't give a fuck. They can't do it like that because they know you wouldn't accept it. They know you wouldn't accept it. So what they have to do is make it seem like it's about something else. Oh, no, it's about transparency and sound science. That's all it's about. So these guys are liars, man. That's what Scott Pruitt is. He's a fucking liar. And they're ruining the EPA in a way I'm not sure I've ever seen before. Bush was bad. This might even be worse than Bush. I mean, this is on a whole nother level. And if you care at all about the environment, these guys have to go.